What is a waste of money on your 6.5 turbo diesel? What's not a waste of money on your 6.5? Well, maybe I should talk about that. It's going to start raining because it's Michigan weather. So, things that have been talked about over the 6.5 ages that everybody has to poo-poo and say negative things about. One, put an intercooler in your truck. They really do work. I've lost over 125 degrees from my ambient air temp going into the intake since putting in this nice little, he's well hidden, 31 by 12 by 3.5 inch core intercoolers. Yes, you have to build your own kit. No, there's not a real good bolt-on direct, but that's okay.
The Amazon special.
This is my Amazon special. I actually used Amazon points after Christmas to buy all this stuff because, well, I'm crafty like that. Get yourself a nice chop saw, DeWalt, Milwaukee, whatever you feel like, because yes, a chop saw makes real quick work of this stuff. So anyways, long and short, an intercooler is absolutely worth the money. Everybody wants to poo-poo it. A lot of people kind of shake their head about it. Some people don't want one. That's fine. You know what? Don't have to have it. Highly recommend it if you're towing frequently. Another thing that I would say is definitely worth having is a fuel pressure gauge. Casper's is not currently in him because I was lazy and took it out, so I didn't have a fuel filter head leak, which is fine. A lot of guys do the spin-on filtration system. It's totally worth doing with the upgrade. Feed the Beast mod, I don't know is necessarily 100% necessary unless you're going to do an upgraded lift pump. So, that's part one. So, intercooler, definitely do it. It's worth the money. Marine injectors, unless you're going to get a set that are set up above 2400 psi pop pressure, they're not worth buying. It's going to be smoky, you're going to have terrible fuel economy, and realistically, it's just not worth blowing that kind of coin. So, if you're going to do it, pay the money, get a good set, find a good reputable place. Some injection shops will even set the pop pressure for you, which is great. So marine injectors are, yes, they're great for towing if they're set at the right pop pressure. Otherwise, just buy factory Bosch replacements that are a known Bosch dealer. Don't get cheap ones. You'll thank me later. So injectors, stay stock unless otherwise you find a good set. So that's part two. Part three. Whirligigs, turbos. So I know that there's a company that everybody is just raving about. I too once raved about them. And then I did some testing with some cheap stuff. And that kind of hurt my feelings because, well, the cheap stuff actually made the truck go faster in the 8th mile than the expensive stuff. A friend of mine literally just lost 1.3 seconds off his 8th mile time in his 6.5 diesel when he took it drag racing using said company A's big expensive turbo versus his eBay HX35 special. That's no bueno, guys. That sucks. He spent $1,600 on a turbocharger to go slower, and it's less effective when towing. Great on the big end, but that tells you that, well, exhaust housing's a little too big. 1-to-1 drive pressure, awesome, love having it, keeps the engine cooler, but it really just is a huge money suck. Anyways.
Oh, and you can prove your drive pressure too. When you really want to know what that 1-to-1 is, let Cortland know and he'll tell you how.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a drive pressure gauge at Casper anymore because I went in blue and I put blue together and sold it because I was, well, unfortunately, at the point where I'm at my wit's end with 6.5s. So, turbos. Find a good eBay one. I highly suggest a 56, 58 with like a 12 or 14 centimeter exhaust housing. Doesn't have to be anything expensive. Get the PT wiring harness, PT wiring solutions, sorry Bruce. Exhaust housing adapter, the drain, the oil feed fitting, and you're done. Go get yourself a whatever brand upper intake hat that you want. Build your 3-inch pipe over there, and you're done. Get a tune. M&L Diesel Services tuning out of New York. Todd does pretty decent tunes from what I've seen thus far, so maybe give him a shout. He's new, getting into it, but for stock trucks and just basic HX upgrades, minty. Okay, So that's part 3. Part 4. No, not parkour. Part 4. Something that people talk about frequently. Lift pumps. They are 100% a necessary evil on these. So is the lift pump relay harness. So, your lift pump relay harness that runs along the frame rail here and up that way. And then up this way to right here, to right here, to the oil pressure switch, and to right there. Lift pumps are 100% a necessary evil. You do not need a FAS. You can get away with a Carter 4601 from the PT Wiring Solutions kit. It works great. I ran one on Casper for 5 years before I put the FAS on it. I ran one on Blue. I had one on Nightmare for a while. You don't need to spend $600 on a lift pump. If you want, you can get a Holly Black. Same thing, as long as it makes 100 gallons per hour at 12 to 15 pounds, that's what you need. So that's part 4.
Part 5.
Part 5 is, well, you don't need to spend $1 million. I did the whole budget swap on the Blue truck, and I had $1,800 bucks in a lift pump, 4-inch exhaust from Summit, the HX40 eBay turbo. That was like revved up, ready to go. Dual thermostats are not an upgrade. People that all want. Why? They're not.
Why do people think they are?
Because it's been on the forums for 100 years that everybody and their mom has to have dual thermostats. Guess what?
You don't!
Every single thermostat truck that I've had over the years has never overheated. When I'm heavy towing with a single thermostat truck, I've noticed that the front and the back of the heads are much closer in temps with a 2001 water pump and fan assembly than with a dual thermostat. So it's not an upgrade. That's fine. People want to think it is. Kudos to you, but it's not. Another thing is for water pumps, just get a 2000 or 2001 and get either a 2000 or 2001 clutch fan assembly. Casper's a late 99, so he already has it all. So there's your cooling stuff. If you really want to make a difference, buy a brand new aluminum tank radiator with fresh, clean, beautiful fins, do a water pump, and off you go. Part 6. So, see way down there? Wait, that big pulley thing? Yeah, that one over there. Okay.
I can't get in there.
You don't have to get in there. A fluid damper. Absolutely get a fluid damper for one of these. I'm 99% sure that's the only reason that Casper has survived this long, and I haven't completely just annihilated the thing. So, spend the money on a fluid damper. Now, when it comes down to brass tacks, get a stock Delco crank pulley. The billet one's awesome. Leroy did a phenomenal job on it. It's totally not necessary. Just like gear drive time set, totally not necessary. Timing chain's fine. These trucks ran for 200, 300, 400,000 with a stock timing chain. So, not something everybody needs. Yes, it's nice if you're gonna do a high performance build, by all means, spend all the money, do all the things. But, yeah. Fluid damper, yes. Billet pulley, totally up to you.
Lucky number 7.
Lucky 7. Let's talk about air intakes. Because everybody tells me that I have a hot air intake. Yeah, this reduces your air intake temps
I was
by...
gonna say, how does that make it hot? Wouldn't that take it down if it's... Just keep going. Math is hard.
Math is hard. Okay. This drops your air intake temps between 15 and 25 degrees at the manifold. Excellent. Why? It's pulling right from behind the headlight, and you have this nice air scoop that actually comes from behind the turn signal and blows up. So yes, everybody wants to criticize me and tell me that I have a hot air intake, but the lack of bend, the larger filter, is what allows it to pull air more freely and makes the turbo work not as hard.
So you're saying it's like a giant straw?
It's a giant bendy straw. So 4-inch air intakes, totally worth having. Part 8?
Part 8.
Part 8. Another thing we could talk about is 4-inch exhaust. I know that some people want one, some people don't. Honestly, if you don't want a muffler, don't put one on it. They're $278 from Summit Racing. They bolt right on. The only problem is that when you do an HX swap and a two-wheel drive, like the Legend here, it kind of whacks the frame. Take it out, put it in a vise, take a 5-pound sledge, put a board on the other side, give it a good whacking. It makes a nice clearance dent, and then it clears the frame rail. So no more problems. Clearance is no longer an issue. So 4-inch exhaust is a yes, worth having. Is it totally necessary? For towing purposes, yes. If you want to have an all-stock truck, you can have an all-stock truck. Put an exhaust on it. Trust me, the EGT drop is totally worth it.
Let's go for 9.
Part 9, turbo crossover pipes. You don't need a 2.5-inch turbo crossover.
Why?
Because it doesn't make a difference. I've run
What's your standard size?
225. So your 2.25 turbo crossover pipe is more than enough area and volume. I've run both. I've done drive pressure tests with both. I've done drive pressure tests with stock turbo versus a HX versus a company A Super Series turbo. And yeah, there's no difference. No EGT change, no nothing. It's pretty much a butt dyno, feel good, it looks cool. It's a huge pipe. Not necessary. So if you don't need a crossover pipe, don't change one, because when you break the bolts off in the manifold and swear like a pirate, your significant other will not appreciate you unless she too is a pirate.
It's a good thing I'm a pirate.
Arr.
And last but not least.
Part 10.
Wait, just don't do it. Just kidding. We like him.
Part 10. If you have a 6.5, and yes, I have sled pulled, drag race, I've done it all. I've come to the conclusion with these trucks that, well, they're just not designed to be hopped up. I love Casper to death. It is one of the most dependable things I've ever owned. It came out of a junkyard. It's been an awesome truck. I have my basic trans-temp boost EGT pillar gauges in it from Autometer, because Autometer is the way to go. Unless you get IS Pro, then that's even better. But in the long run, you don't need to spend $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 on one of these trucks. You could put an eBay turbo on it. You could put a PT Wiring Solutions turbo install kit and lift pump on it. You could put a Summit 4-inch exhaust on it. You could build your own intercooler off Amazon like I did, or throw a 4-inch air intake on it. And in the long run, it's going to do everything you need it to do. It'll be the perfect work truck. It'll be cheap, dependable, get you down the road, and most of all, it's not going to cost you a fortune. So, all in, you don't really need to spend the big bucks on a 6.5. They were a budget truck to begin with. GM did not design these to be a hot rod hop-up truck. They're designed to be a work truck. So, that being said, keep them cheap, guys. Keep them reliable. Use your farm trucks, daily drivers, whatever. Because you know what? The most dependable ones are bone stock. Life's short, stock sucks. But in this case, don't go overboard. Have a good night.